Okay, well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me take this out and to get rid of that so you can see me. There I am. How's everybody doing? Good morning. Let me switch some stuff. I am just all kind of discombobulated this morning because I stayed up 5 hours past my bedtime last night, um, dealing with family kids and things like that. So hats off to you all. Good morning to you. Welcome to the show. It's Tuesday. No, it isn't. Lord Jesus, let me. Ooh, the upper room. Oh, yeah, I got my church fan. It's Wednesday, hump day. It is just one of those mornings. But you know what? Every day is a blessing. Every day that we wake up, even in current times, it's a blessing. So, how are you doing today? How's your week going? Here on Bathrobe Moments, it's been a great week so far. We had Aaron and Veronica on Monday, and then yesterday was Sound Off Day, which was really interesting. Some people shared on the screen and live how they were feeling about everything going on right now in their lives and around their lives. And then today is even greater because we have Dr. Mark Gomez, an internist here in Naperville, Illinois, with the Edwards Hospital. And he's going to just top it up with us, answer some questions, and get it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, someone who's on the front line. So I'm so excited to have my first health care worker on the show. To be able to celebrate them. They're on the front lines each and every day. And I just thought we could all use some uplifting and learn how to do better. So Mark Gomez is here. Welcome to everyone that's coming in. Everybody's dragging booty today. D Bell. Ball is here. Brandon Neely. Good morning to you all. So listen, if you have any questions um, for the good doctor, Jeanette Ramos, good morning, everyone. I want you to ask those questions, put them up on the screen, and I will relay them over to Dr. Gomez. Going to get him in here in a second. But while I'm finishing with the news that's on these cards, won't you please invite people, start a watch party, um, or just, call up a friend or two, especially people that you may know that are at risk or people that we all know who just don't believe fat meat is greasy. They're out there doing all kinds of things, thinking that they're not putting themselves in jeopardy or perhaps already spreading the virus. So just invite anybody. This is stuff that everybody can benefit from. So if you wanted to be a part of something greater than yourself, now's the time. Get on the horn, uh, get the word out, share this out, and invite people to come and get their medically based questions answered. Destiny Riri Poole, good morning to you. You all, you've seen already 5 or 6 slip ups this morning with me. I had tried to play the sponsorship video. It took me forever. I'm clicking all over the place because I'm half asleep. I need all of this in me. So help me welcome to the show my sidekick, Miss Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. Mhm. Couldn't make it without her. And you see these little flub ups. That's okay. I'm human and we're live. That's right. We're streaming live at this very moment across Facebook, YouTube, Roku, Android, Apple TV, Periscope, and of course our home base out in sunny Phoenix, Arizona, E360 Television Live. I want to say good morning to our sponsor you see crawling along the bottom of the screen, Symposium.us. My good friends, with headed up by creator and founder Troy Rocks in Las Vegas. Symposium.us is where conversation becomes currency. You can really, and this is a great time right now to take a look at this by downloading the app. If you need an additional income stream, you can get on there and do whatever. There are people tutoring kids, story times, vision boarding classes, cooking classes, you name it. So, whatever you're an authority on, if you need an extra income stream now or later, get over and check out symposium.us. I guarantee you, I've done it over 20 times and I have never regretted it, and neither will you. That's symposium.us, where conversation becomes currency. So, okay. So I have a lot right now. Let's get this party started. I have a lot of questions for Dr. Gomez. I'm going to bring him in now. Hello there, Mark. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Loren? Good morning. I got
Good.
my I got my coffee too, just like you, brother.
I know. And listen, let me first of all start by saying thank you so very much. And also all of your fellow healthcare workers that are out there, not just here in Naperville, but across the world, out there every day, putting your lives on the line so that we can stay safe and prosper. So cheers. And thank you so much for all you do. Seriously.
Cheers.
Um,
Thank you.
I saw something, the other two things I've seen, postings on my page, and maybe some of you have seen it, that I just love. Somebody said the other day that nurses need to have all of their their student loan debt forgiven after this thing. And I thought, now that's not a bad idea. And then someone else had said, when we get to the other side of this, I do not want to see any star-studded galas for the award season. I want to see first responders and medical filled people walking those red carpets, because that's who we really should be celebrating. So people get it, right? So
Absolutely.
how are you doing? You and your family, Tiffany and your beautiful kids. How are you guys doing with your sheltering in place?
We're doing great, Lauren. I tell you what, this sheltering in place has certainly it's been a new experience for a lot of us. Our kids are home from school, obviously, at least to the end of the month unless the governor extends it more. But it's allowed me to really embrace some new opportunities. When kind of like when you're so busy all the time, and then all of a sudden you're forced to slow down. You really have an opportunity to see things in a different light. For me, it's allowed me to reconnect with my children more, reconnect with my wife. I can actually see them while they're awake and alert instead of me out the door. I'm still working during this time. I still see patients virtually, either via telephone visits or video visits. But this is an opportunity. It's like I've had chance to read do a little joy reading. I've had a chance to exercise. You can focus on your nutrition. I've done some yoga and some meditation. So there are some opportunities during this time that people should take advantage of to really reconnect with themselves.
Absolutely. And not everything shouldn't be panic based and whatnot. But let's get the obvious questions out of the way. Because I want us to get over to the positive things. Now, just some stats. I'm just going to use New York as a guideline as far as yesterday. What happened with the virus in New York as of yesterday? As of yesterday, 18,000 people had been tested. 122,000 have tested positive. Approximately 17,000 people were hospitalized yesterday there. And of the patients hospitalized as of yesterday, 4,626 were ICU patients. Um, there was also the good news: 13,896 patients discharged from New York hospitals yesterday, and that's great. And uh, the number of deaths so far in New York went up yesterday. Quite a jump, 4,159 people. Um, but they do say, and I want to hear how you feel about this. Yesterday, they're starting to say that the numbers they believe are starting to plateau, and I'm hoping that is the case. It remains to be seen, but they said yesterday that approximately they were predicting about 82,000 deaths by late summer in the United States. Which is down from the originally projected 94,000. But then this morning they came back, and this is the University of Washington, the model that they're using, dropped it down to 60,400 by August of 2020. So I know it's a weird thing to think, oh, only 60,000, or 60,000. Ooh, good news. But the thing is, it could have been a lot worse. And if people don't start taking this a little more seriously, we could see it start all over again. Is that right, or is that not right?
That is correct. I think the biggest questions that I'm getting asked myself when I talk to my patients is, number one, when is this pandemic going to end? And number two, when can I return back to life as it formerly was? The reality is some of those numbers, and I'm very familiar with the University of Washington with their studies, and they have really set up really good models out there that are constantly updating as we get more testing capacity. But those models assume, of course, that we still continue to have our stay-at-home social distancing measures and shelter-in-place measures. We don't want to reduce those too early, because the reality is that this virus lasts for 14 days. And so if you pull away those things too early, then you might actually see another peak, a delayed peak of incidence of people still having exposure. The interesting thing about this virus is that it's so darn contagious. It's got a contagious factor. We call it, in statistics, we call it the R naught. And the R naught stands for essentially what is the infectability rate of something. So, for example, when we think about the seasonal flu, we call that an R naught of 1, meaning that for every person that is infected, they will infect one person.
Mm,
The thing with COVID-19, it has an R naught of 2 to 3, so meaning that one person will infect 2 to 3 people. So the magnitude
wow.
of infectability is way higher. So that's why we're thinking about. The saying goes like this in business, and I know it goes like this in health: you can't manage what you can't measure. And again, I think when you say you can't measure, you can't measure, that's why we don't know who's got this virus. That's why we're trying to get more testing out there. Ideally, there would be universal testing for somebody with symptoms, but we're still trying to get the handle on this one. And then I will say this, Loren, when you're looking at when can people maybe relax some of these social distancing measures, I think of a couple things. Number one, the number of infections needs to keep going down. Right now, the numbers are going up. Our peak has not been, we have not peaked, and we're not flattening the curve. Number two, I think hospitals across your state need to have equity. So, for example, hospitals that are treating this, we want hospitals across the state to be able to treat this equally and not have to treat this in a crisis mindset. No different than if somebody's treating a heart attack. Pretty much most hospitals can treat heart attacks or strokes relatively equally. Right now, we're using so many resources in crisis mode. So once crisis mode is down, then I think that's a way to relax things. And then lastly, when I think about it, I think about if people can get tested. And so if I see those things coming down, the numbers of tests per day or number of positive cases per day going down, hospitals having equity and not utilizing crisis management to manage this thing in a normal setting. And then lastly, access. I think those are times to really see if we can start relaxing these measures.
Wow, good info there. Everyone, if you've just joined in, and I see a number of you have, good morning to you. You're here just in time. I want you to invite people, start a watch party, share this out. We have Dr. Mark Gomez here today. He is an internist that practices medicine here in the city of Naperville and is with the Edwards Hospital here in Naperville, Illinois. And he's here today to answer some questions, shed some light, and basically to just talk about how we can do better. And and we're here to celebrate. So let me tell you something real quick. This is new this season 4 of Bathrobe Moments. This is the bell of purpose. And so when I ring that bell, that's your opportunity out there to become a part of something greater than yourselves. So it means that our guest has put something down, laid something down, dropped something off that I think we all need to get behind and pick it up. So that's when you show our guests some love, like you see on the screen, hit some hearts and show them that you really appreciate what's going on. And we have a frontliner here today. So let's start with that one. Let's see some hearts for all of our healthcare workers that are on the front lines every day trying to keep us safe. So, Mark, thank you again for joining us. Um, let's talk. Let's start by talking about high risk population. Now, a lot of people I've heard when you go to the top two, it's diabetes and high blood pressure. So, what I mean, no, but there's all kinds of things, respiratory issues, COPD, asthma. And now we're also hearing that because this thing is ever changing, kids, Pink came out and said the other day that her 3-year-old son and her have both tested positive. So now, and I remember when a few weeks ago, a 16-year-old. So it's changed. Now they're saying a tiger. You know what I'm saying, right? So, um, what do people in the high risk category need to do additionally? Should they not go out at all? You know what I'm saying? There's so many different variances when you go out. I was out yesterday. I had and I felt really weird at first. I had it on in the car and then got out and was in the parking lot and said, I can't do this. And I pulled it down. And then I was walking around the grocery store and I saw more people with it. So I retied it, put it back on. Um, what do you say? And what are you guys doing? Are you having your food delivered? Your groceries? How are you guys doing it?
Yeah, so what we're doing, we do have our stuff delivered. We use one of those shopping apps to deliver our groceries. We're trying to stay indoors as much as we can. I tell this to my patients and I tell it to my loved ones. I say, do not go outside unless it's mission critical. So we think about if you can't have delivery services for your groceries, or if you have to go to a doctor's appointment, if your doctor's still seeing patients. A lot of doctors are not seeing patients right now; they're seeing patients virtually instead
Yeah,
of maybe face to face. That's what I'm doing in my
telehealth.
medical practice, telehealth.
Hmm.
So unless it's mission critical, I tell people if you can stay at home, stay at home. Now that doesn't mean you can't go to your yard. Doesn't mean that you can't walk down the street. Doesn't mean
Right.
you can't exercise, ride your bike. But
Right.
we're trying to use common sense measures. Again, the reality is that we don't know who is infected. And the reality is that a lot of people can pass this virus on that are asymptomatic. So when you think about people still gathering together, I mean, you're here now, Loren, people having their social meetups at the grocery store. And that defeats the whole purpose. I mean, yes, you can still go to the grocery store, but it's not designed to be like the club, you know? People are
Right.
meeting up at the grocery store and
Right.
now potentially infecting more people.
So let me ask you, because I did see something like that yesterday at the grocery store, actually over by the fried chicken a dispatch center at Jewel. But now, is it tell us about this. They all of the people involved, there was like 8 of them. They 6 feet, maybe not so much, but they each had a cart, and that's what people are using to keep because they're playing the things over the intercom, 2 carts distance away from the next person,
Mhm.
and they all had masks on. They did not all have gloves on because I looked. Is it is it okay to be less than 6 feet if you're all wearing masks?
So great question, and I think that brings the broader issue is how effective are these masks? Yes, we are advising people to more or less essentially follow a universal masking protocol. Of course, we want our the predominant of masks that are out there. We want them obviously in the front line, in the hands of frontline workers, because there have been some known shortages of personal protective equipment, especially in people that are treating these very, very sick patients. But from a masking standpoint, I think it's a barrier protection. The question is, does the virus pass through the particle size? Pass through the common mass that we have. We know that with these N95 respirators, which are kind of the kind of called the gold standard for masking, which is certainly needed in the healthcare setting. That's probably your nice protective approach. When you talk about cloth masks or other kind of masks, we don't know yet if those particles will pass through the mask. On the flip side, though, as you have meticulous hand washing and you do maintain distance, because we believe can travel up to about 6 feet in distance before it falls down from gravity. We do want to have those measures still in place. So we want people to really try to enforce the 6 feet rule, because this virus is spread sometimes even just by talking.
Wow.
So again, we need to make sure that we're out there. The other thing is that this virus does live on surfaces, and I've seen various studies that have said the virus can live anywhere from between a few hours up to a few days, depending on the surface that we're dealing with.
Now, and those are great points, because it's amazing how uh, just in this household we have grown and changed as we have decided to take it more and more seriously. But not, and I've kind of slow rolled it. I'll be honest with you, Mark, because I've been very cognizant of not responding from a place of panic. You see what I
Correct.
mean? But now we do have disinfectant in our garage, and if we go to the mailbox or something, I mean, we use gloves to take the mail out. We sort it out in the garage. Don't bring in anything that we don't have to. We open it out there, drop that stuff in the recycle, take the inside stuff out, um, spray the bottom of our shoes, even though they stay out there on that little area, and that sort of thing. But it's uh, it's interesting because we've seen the mindset of the people in the neighborhood change. Now, here's one thing I want to get your opinion on because a couple weeks ago and I laugh about this now, but it was a real thing. I was feeling some kind of way when you're walking down the street and you see people when we first, when they first did the quarantine, and I mean, one lady, Brian, was walking. She just turned around and ran breakneck speed in the opposite direction. And, and I looked at her, and then when he came home, he told me about it. I said, "I know how I feel."
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
because he had never experienced anything like that. And so, and people have seemed to loosen up. This past weekend, the weather was nice here, and people were going out of their way, it seemed, to wave and speak from their porches and from a safe distance. And so people have started to loosen up. But let me ask you this. Uh, do you think that we will ever go back to the way we were after this thing? I mean, when you stand in one spot, like in the parking lot when you're out there and you see and you just look around, it's like something from an alien movie.
So I'll tell you this. I don't think that we can go back to the way that they used to be. It's interesting when you're talking about some of the scenarios and somebody running away from Brian kind of thing. I've even challenged myself. Think about when we go pump gas. I now pump gas with a glove on. And then I throw my glove away. Now I have access to gloves because I work in a healthcare facility, but I've got gloves anyways, the rubber gloves. But think about it. Gas station pumps are dirty. Lots
Yes.
of germs. So many hands have been there. So I've been telling people, listen, it's like, why did we have the awareness 3 months ago that we do now? But it's not because we just weren't aware of it, and now we are aware of it. We're trying to be very intentional and practice what we preach. But so, I got a whole bunch of rubber gloves in my glove compartment in my car.
Yep. That's right. And that's very
Yeah.
smart. We were talking about that because, I used to be the kind of person I didn't let my car go down past half a tank.
Yeah.
And now I think it says the light came on. I have like 8 miles left. Because
Oh,
I
you're
try
like me. Take it down to the bitter end.
take it to the bitter end. And so I mean we're even to the point like when I go to the grocery store and stuff, I come in, I take my clothes off in the mudroom
Yeah,
and
that's what I do.
drop it right inside the washer.
Yep, that's what I do
And
too.
right now, a couple weeks ago, I thought I ain't hardly going through. That's really what I thought. But every day, when you see this thing change and grow in leaps and bounds, you start to take things a little bit more seriously, or at
Yeah.
least we should. I have a question from one of the viewers.
Please.
Shelley Dale says, "Hi, Dr. Gomez. Thank you
Hi,
for your
Shelley.
service." And again, that's true. Thank you for your service. Let's show some love on the screen, you guys. Shelley's question is, she said, "What is your opinion on the thought that I had this last year in November, December? I was never so sick in my life, and now I've been asked to donate my blood and plasma by our local health."
So that's a great question, Shelley. Really, when we trace back the origin of this virus, if everything is factually correct, the first case, first at least in this country, was not confirmed by the CDC until January 21st. So that's less than 3 months ago. Right now, we're at 400,000 cases in this country and counting, and that's the people that have actually been checked. Some people may have actually not been checked and may have actually had the virus. If you go back to China, here's what happened. Towards the end of last year in China, they were treating people with pneumonia of unknown etiology, unknown cause. And it wasn't until December 31st, literally at the New Year's Eve, when the Chinese actually said this is something that's novel, meaning that we haven't seen this before. So the reality is that this virus did originate in China without a doubt, because that's where the first people were. So they had case reports. I believe the first death in China happened in either January 7th or January 11th, something like that time frame. And then a few days later is when the disease became global because it spread outside of China. First case outside of China was in Thailand.
Mhm.
So going back to November, you probably did not have this virus because this virus wasn't known and it only originated in China. Now they're trying to trace that back right now using actually DNA technology. The thought is that the prevailing thought is that this virus originated in a bat, mutated, and then went into an animal, a pangolin, because in China they use pangolin skin, the scales, I should say, pangolin scales, as a health benefit. And so then the virus then go from an animal, a pangolin, then now mutate and then get inoculated into a human. So they call that process zoonosis. So that's from an animal, the transmission of animal to humans or humans to animals, that kind of thing. And this is the same thing that happened even in previous viruses that we've seen back in the early 2000s, of course. So your symptoms at that time were likely related to another virus, not this novel virus. I will add this, and I want to piggyback on what you were kind of getting at, Loren. This is a new experience for everybody. Nobody on the face of this planet has seen this virus up until basically they've now seen the virus. And our treatment strategies are as novel as the virus is itself. They call it the novel coronavirus, brand new. And our treatment strategies that we're trying to do, what we learned last week in healthcare, is different than this week, because it's such a we are enacting protocols that have never been done before. It's different from a heart attack or a stroke. We got protocols for that. When we haven't seen anything, we're literally creating on the fly, and that's where I just love my medical colleagues, my ICU docs, my ICU nurses, critical thinkers, ER docs that are seeing things. They're really being innovative in their approaches in treating this condition.
Yes, and hats off to all of those people. And that's really on the
Yeah.
front lines. They
Front
need
line.
some
Whew.
Yes, they need some hazardous duty pay up in here. Can I get an amen? Listen, thank you guys for the hearts on the screen. I've got another question for you from another viewer. Destiny Riri Poole, she says, since there is no cure or real treatment for this virus right now, is testing more so for statistical purposes? Is it recommended to get tested if you have to walk inside of a hospital facility versus pull up, stay in the car testing? My thought is, if you don't have the virus, you run the risk of contracting it if you walk inside of a hospital to get tested due to the massive amount of COVID-19 patients being treated. What say you, Dr. Gomez?
So here's a couple things. Number one, we still do not have adequate testing capacity in this country, meaning that we just can't test everybody. Ideally, we would have universal testing, but we just don't. Even though we're ramping, even though the USA has the most cases documented on record, there is still a lack of ability to test. I believe in the state of Illinois, they can only run total out of all the hospitals right now in Illinois. I think it's a little bit over 10,000 tests a day. There's 12.9 or 12.5 million people in Illinois. So we just don't have the testing capacity. And even in this country, as we're running literally tens of thousands of tests a day, there are 350 million people in this country. And so the problem is that you have to reserve the testing capacity for those that are really symptomatic, because those people, when they're symptomatic, they can crash just like that. They go down fast. And literally at this point, your local hospital is almost certainly treating dozens of positive COVID-19 patients. Here's the challenge. Because people are so averse now of going to a hospital setting, they are actually potentially putting themselves at risk. For example, somebody that might be experiencing chest pain, it actually might be a heart attack. And they may not go to the ER because for fear of getting COVID-19.
Yeah.
But I'd say there's fear of dying from a massive heart attack. And so when this all settles, it's going to be very interesting to see from a public health standpoint on what other health conditions have been affected adversely because of delay in care, whether it's diabetes, whether it's heart disease, whether it's getting mammograms done for your breast cancer, whether it's getting colonoscopies done. We are going to see a delay in care, and that may actually adversely affect disease burden counts in this country because we're just so averse to doing things. So hopefully I sort of answered the question, but I kind of went off a tangent there, but it's all good. We just can't test. We just can't test everybody right now.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Welcome to all of you who have come in. I've seen the front door opening and closing over and over again, and that's a good thing. I want to say good morning, Corinne and Narinder Pan, all the way from Singapore. Narinder was telling us, giving us some stats on how it is on her side of the world just yesterday. And I want to, here's something I want to get your take on, Dr. Gomez. One of the houses on our cul-de-sac here, they have a full basketball court on their property, and you know how many cars belong to that house, and then over the weekend, the weather was nice, and you can hear them. And it's hard for me. I'm just keeping it real. It's hard for me when I see 7 cars out front that don't live there. And I know that they're not sheltering in place. They're out there, doing this because they have their own private, space to do it in. What what and that's not just them. I mean, in my own family, there was a birthday party last night in a state. And here we're having a family Zoom thing, and they try to raise these people, where are the Michigan people, and they can't come on because they can't hear because there's so many people there. And what is it that makes some people think that social distancing, a safe amount of space between people, is just overdoing it or whatever? And I mean, because that means in order for there to be that many people, that means that has to be a mindset, in my opinion. And what could that potentially do to slow down us getting this thing under control? Because I know of 2 groupings just in my own little world.
Well, you're absolutely right, Loren, and that's the one of the biggest challenges. Some people may think it infringes on their individual freedoms. Some people think they just may not get this virus at all. Statistically speaking, yes, your personal risk may be low, but the systemic risk on the society is going to be high. Again, if you need critical care services because you're in a motor vehicle accident, or your loved one has a heart attack or a stroke, and if that hospital that you normally go to is full of COVID patients, who's going to treat you? And so we have, some of us can innately understand social distancing and implement it right away. The other of us have this need for social connection and again, meetups at the grocery store now. The reality is that people need to take advantage of virtual connection. Now people say, oh, they're not the real thing.
Not the real thing.
And I'm maybe somebody's low tech and they don't have Facebook or Zoom and stuff like that. But we have to really understand that we are mired in this pandemic. And until we start seeing numbers go down, this is going to be the reality. And that can actually, those kind of behaviors, whether people just do it on their own, they actually not only put themselves at risk, but they put others at risk. But some people can rationalize that, yes, I know I need a social distance, but then I still do the behavior. And so it's different from the rationalization of, I understand this concept, but then my behavior is completely opposite. That's
Right.
really the disconnect is. And I think that's where we have to just really, as public health officials and public health leaders, and what I try to do on my platform, To Your Health with Dr. G, is really educate people. This is important. You want to see these measures go down, and you want to see some more loosening of these things. You want to get your kids back in school. Well, we need to do this.
Right. Absolutely. Ring the bell. Listen, I think, and I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, I was telling you while we were in the green room waiting to come out here, that I've been very cognizant about what I post, what I talk about as far as COVID-19, because I'm not trying to add to, and there's the highway of information is bumper to bumper. But what I am concentrating on, and I would like to be a part of, is what we can do to prepare ourselves, because there's got to be a morning after. Remember that song?
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Right. There is going to be a morning after. But
Hmm.
in order to get there, to see what kind of world we'll be living in, to understand what kind of people we've evolved into as a result of this, you have to live. So if you would, because here's what we get in the media, and I have it on my page where a girl somewhere in the world said, my dad picked me up a week ago today for something, and now he's dead. COVID-19 is no joke. And, and I've seen every day it changes within my own world. It's getting closer and closer. A week ago, it was hard for me to know someone. Well, 2 weeks ago, then last week during a coaching session, one of my coaching clients presented with symptoms, and later that night went to the emergency room and found out she was positive for the virus. I saw it on the screen, actually walk in the door on her. Now, and it was fast. Stuff that started happening to her, and she
Mhm.
was reaching for things, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? I'm looking at the screen just like this, going, oh Lord, how do I call 911 on a Zoom call? I don't even know her address. You see what I'm saying? So all these things ran through my mind.
Mhm.
Now, we see that a lot of people, there was someone that posted, oh my God, I think it was Missy Lane and her college sweetheart, an orchestra teacher, walking around on campus one week to the week to the day. A week later, he's in the ICU. So it moves quickly. You are in there on the front lines. When someone walks in and says, oh my God, I'm positive, or I need to be hospitalized, what is the process that makes it? What happens? What's the order of things that happen that makes this thing move so quickly and take people down at such an alarming rate or pace? So can you walk us through that? And then, because I know ventilators, we hear about the ventilator shortage. What does it take to get on a ventilator?
So I can answer that question kind of from start to finish,
Okay.
I'll give you kind of my aspect from an outpatient based physician. I'm actually so yes, I am trying to get my patients to avoid hopefully getting these symptoms. That's what we talk about from a prevention standpoint: social distancing, meticulous hand washing, shelter in place, those kind of things. That's where my kind of role is on the from an outpatient physician standpoint. I'm not in the hospital because that's where our hospitalists are at and our critical care doctors and critical care nurses are at.
Right.
But I have had patients that I've talked to on the phone where I've actually literally said, if your wife or husband doesn't take you to the ER right now, I'm going to call 911 for you, because they go from no symptoms or mild symptoms to just devastating symptoms immediately. This virus viciously attacks your lungs and affects your ability to breathe air. And it happens just like that. And so people that'll have the symptoms, of course, that are really sick, if you're short of breath and you can't breathe, that is not the time to call Dr. Gomez. That's the time to call 911
Okay.
and get in the ambulance. But what I would do from my perspective, what a lot of physicians are doing if they're seeing these patients and say, you got to go right now. What I'm doing is I'm calling ahead to the emergency room and I'm saying, hey, Dr. So-and-so, here's the patient. They're coming in. And what'll happen is when somebody gets to the emergency room, they're immediately going to get masked. So they're going to get a mask on them. A lot of ERs have set up tents outside of the actual facility where you'll be met with a clinician, either a nurse or potentially a doctor that's wearing personal protective equipment. They're going to get your swab right away. It's called a nasal pharyngeal swab. They stick something up your nose. Sometimes they can stick it in the back of your mouth, but basically you get the nose sample. And then they will put you in an isolation room immediately. They're going to run tests. The way how you determine if somebody is going to be hospitalized, if somebody's having difficulty breathing and you've tried to give them oxygen, you've tried to do some things, if they have increased work of breathing, then they're going to get hospitalized. If they're having high fevers, they're going to get hospitalized. If they have abnormal findings on a chest x-ray, a lot of people have a pneumonia presentation on x-ray, they will be hospitalized. So then somebody gets hospitalized. And so it's at that point where the hospitalist or the critical care team decides, do you need to go to kind of a monitored hospital floor? Right now, you're hearing in the industry these COVID units where you have literally floors and floors of a hospital only dedicated for COVID patients, that's separated and segregated from your parts of the hospital that are dealing with maybe heart attack patients or people with abdominal pain or appendicitis or things like that. If somebody is truly struggling to breathe, they will go right to the ICU. That's an intensive care unit where you have much more close monitoring. If somebody still is unable to maintain their breathing on their own, because again, this virus viciously attacks your lungs and causes collapse in the tiny parts of our lungs that involve with gas exchange, they're called the alveoli. They collapse, and if you can't not open up those lungs and have gas exchange, then you will be vented. You'll be on a ventilator managed by an ICU doctor, and we'll have a machine do the work for you while we try to figure out and help your body fight this virus. And so on the flip side, then hopefully if somebody gets better over time, then they will eventually get stepped down out of the ICU to maybe down to a regular floor unit and then eventually discharged home. You're looking at the data from New York, and you were talking about that at the beginning, Loren, and I will say that I hear so much from physicians that are in New York that are literally at the epicenter in this country, and they're saying that people are entering their wards, the ICU, and nobody's leaving the ICU except for in a body bag. And people are entering the ICU and they're hearing phones ring because you can't go in as a loved one. If your loved one's hospitalized, you cannot go in because this disease is so infectious, so contagious. And now you're having people that are alone. They might have their last calls with their loved one on their way to the ICU, gasping for air, and they leave in a body bag. And it is just so disheartening. I wish people understood. You and I get it, Loren. I wish people understood the severity of this, that it is changing lives forever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I want you, thanks to everyone who's come in, Sean Clark, Joshua Hoyt, Pam Huber, Glenn Edwards, Joseph Barnes, welcome. And again, I want you to reiterate the fact about people who feel that they like I went to a gathering of more than 10 or whatever, but I kept my distance or this and the other. What is that is a false sense of adhering to the rules, number one, and a false sense of protection and safety. Right or wrong?
It's correct. You're trying to do the best you can to that's why we say stay at home until we understand who's got this virus, who's got the disease. We just don't know. It's just too risky out there. And people are like, oh my gosh, well, we're shutting things down. We're shutting down the economy. We're shutting all that stuff down. But even as you mentioned, the numbers are being revised down as far as total deaths. The impact is just still tremendous. People that did not need to necessarily pass away from this condition.
Right.
And so we have to think about, we have to do something for the greater good. You feel me on that one? We got to do something for the greater good. And I think most of us want to do something for the greater good. It's just a few of us that are out there that are just having some struggles dealing with this.
Look, this is how I look at it.
Lay it on me.
First of all, everybody says you treat something like this as if everyone is infected.
Hmm.
You have to. That's
Correct.
the best way to keep yourself from saying, "Well, that ain't so bad." Rationalizing your way, because we're notorious as a people for self-diagnosing, even in the best of times. Oh, that ain't nothing. You know what I mean? Till you fall over dead from it. You see. Now, I think I wish people would look at it like this, Mark. If this were an STD that you couldn't, the kiss, one of those ones, you get it, you don't come back from it. You're gonna live with it for the rest of your life. If people looked at this virus like that, would you go to a gathering? That's the equivalent of, okay, I didn't sleep with him or her, but we made out. You know what I'm saying?
uh,
And you know they have something.
I like that analogy where it's literally like I contract an STD, but then I die from touching my face, and that's a thing. It's like we have to understand the impact of this thing, and those gatherings are really setting us back a little bit, or not a little bit, just a lot. But we
Well,
do know that the certain measures right now, the stay-at-home measures are working. That's why I think they're revising these numbers down. But we just have to keep up at it.
exactly. Because back to the analogy of the sexual transmitted disease, it's like this. It's a mindset. They're back in, if there were people that go out to hook up joints and stuff like that, there's the guy that carries a condom and there's the guy that takes his chances. So I think if with the world underneath this mandate, pretty much, if you're with a group of people that are gathering, you're with people that have a relaxed mindset. So that means this is most likely not the only place they've been. Where if they're here when we're supposed to be sheltering in place, where else have they been? Now multiply that out, like you said, and give those stats again about tell the people that just came in about that thing you said. Sometimes if you can infect one person with it, but
Yeah.
this one is 2 to 3.
Absolutely. So it's called the R naught in statistics, and we say that it's the level of infectability. And so when I mentioned a little bit earlier that the flu, typically one person affects one individual, and that's it. We call that an R naught of 1. This thing with COVID-19, it's an R naught of 2 to 3. So one person will affect 2 to 3 people. So that can multiply easily. And when you think about exponential growth, that's a thing. We can think of very much of a linear growth, but linear growth is not this. Linear growth is flu. COVID-19 is exponential growth with a higher magnitude of infectability and disaster going on at the same time. And I think that's hard for some people to wrap their minds around, but for a lot of us, we can wrap our minds around that one. And so this is why we talk back again. We've never seen this virus before. This is a novel. It's novel for a reason, never been seen before. And so we have to deal with this. The last time we were in a pandemic, a lot of people might say, oh, we were in a pandemic in 1918 to 1920 with the Spanish flu. Actually, the last pandemic we were in was actually 2009. We just didn't talk about it as much, but it was the H1N1. The H1N1 flu that affected millions and millions of people across the world. It even led to tens of thousands of deaths in this country. Now, again, we have, by the way, when you get your flu shot, you have protection against H1N1. But again, at that time in 2009, when that came out, that pandemic that we were in, nobody had ever seen that type of flu before. Those genes were never seen. Same
Right.
thing now moving forward. We've never seen this. The great thing is that this whole process has sparked a lot of human spirit and research firepower. Now we have clinical trials that are going on. We have vaccine studies going on right now. So you're seeing this collaborative and innovative effort across science. Yeah, science, love it. Love you some science, Loren. And so you're seeing the
Obviously,
firepower.
really,
I know, love it. It's like
and
love it.
and
I'm
I'm
like
glad.
I'm like the mad scientist.
Right.
But now you're seeing this collective human spirit embracing each other because this is our time to
Mm,
shine as people. This is going to
mm.
define our lives from here moving forward. But we have the chance to shape our destiny.
That's right. And hearts on the screen, everybody. That is definitely a bell ringer right there, a humdinger of a bell ringer. Listen, I have a couple comments and a question for you. Question from Sean Clark. When leaving the home for essential items, should we just do delivery services for groceries, pharmacies, and dinner?
So that's a great question. If you can do that, because there is a cost to that. But if it is reasonable for you, yes, the answer is yes. You should do that if you
And,
can.
well, and Mark, how
Yeah.
safe is that? ordering in?
So we realized at the end of the day, I don't know the driver from somebody else knowing the driver who may deliver it to you, but this is where you can take common sense measures. Some of the things that I recommend people doing is once they get their delivery, that they certainly spray the outside of the container, or at least immediately remove the container, put the contents of the container into your own stuff that's in the house, and then thoroughly wash your hands before you start touching things.
Right. Good one. Good stuff. Um, Destiny says, I have a friend who lives in New York City. He tells the gruesome stories of how the morgues are so full right now that they have been forced to place makeshift morgues, semi trucks, and freezers all over the city to hold the bodies in. This is so sad.
Horrible.
To all frontline responders, I appreciate your service. I can't even begin to imagine. And then Myra Jean says, Loren, excellent information. Thank you, Dr. Gomez, for your service. And again, yes, you guys, some hearts on the screen for Dr. Gomez and the many millions of healthcare workers, the behind the scenes people, laboratory people. If you all could really see all the people that are working to get this thing under control worldwide, it might make a difference to those who still feel like it's party time and nothing's going to take that from me. Dr. Gomez, um, as we round the final lap, we've got about 10 minutes left. Can you tell us what can we do when I see all the cars and stuff? Is this the time where mind your own business, or I have their phone in my phone contacts? I could easily text and say, really? Are you, or should I just mind my own business? You see what I'm saying?
I do.
When we see that social gathering at the grocery store or wherever, do we give a disapprove look of disapproval, or do we just stay on the path we're on? I mean, because I'm torn, to be quite honest. I'm torn.
Yeah, I'm torn on that one too. Ideally, we'd all go to the situation and try to break that up from a distance, of course, and then say, "Y'all need to
Mhm.
stop doing that." At the end of the day, we have to. The best thing you could do is control your destiny on this one. And I think there's more like-minded people like you and me, Loren, that are doing our fair share to account for some of the lapses in others' judgments and others' behaviors. But yes, if you feel comfortable to break up a gathering, or to at least do it from afar, or to just, if you have the phone number, exercise your opinion. We have to. If we don't speak up, then we can't make these changes. So I guess that depends on the comfort level of the person, but hopefully
Right.
more of us speak up and prevent those. Now you're seeing, of course, across the country, different municipalities that have enacted executive orders or laws to prohibit those kind of things. And certainly our law enforcement officials are issuing citations and things like that if there are any gatherings. And sometimes if you issue a citation, you put some money at risk, that might get people to change their behaviors really quickly.
Absolutely. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you about, real quick, is the danger temperature. Because you're talking about all there's when something presents or people
Yeah.
are starting to feel these things, any little thing, you're like, oh, is that it? Or is that it? But the temperature is one thing that you can take. And so, what is the temperature that you should start? Look, maybe make that call, and how long should you see it? How consistently before calling your doctor?
That's a great question, Loren. And those are some of the common things I ask people to look out for when we're asking them to do some self-monitoring while they're social distancing and they're staying at home. The temperature that we're looking at is 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh,
And
okay.
so if you're having numbers that are persistently higher than that, maybe somebody has tried to take a Tylenol, which is designed to reduce fevers. But a fever is technically anything above 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit. And so if you're seeing that persistently, then that's a time to let your physician know.
One
We'll
hundred. Let's reiterate,
100.4. Yeah.
100.4, not 104.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. 100.4. And the
Right.
interesting thing, Loren, is that you'll see these fevers start to spike typically around day 4, day 5. Again, a lot of people have no symptoms on the front end of it. Some people may have no symptoms at all the entirety of the 14 days. But you'll see the fever typically happen about day 4, day 5. You'll see that also accompanied with persistent cough. And lastly, if it gets really significant, shortness of breath. And
Now,
so
when
that you're
you
looking
say
at.
yes, so let's
Yeah.
talk about that cough.
Yeah.
Because there are people with COPD, this and that. I have COPD, and I'll tell you, I would, if I have to cough and I'm out, I'm getting down on the floor of the car and make sure I might crawl in the trunk and shut it to do it. Because people look at you like, cough again.
Cough
I'll
one more
beat
time.
your right.
Cough
So
one more time. See what happens.
yeah, now we've heard in the media that it's a dry cough. Is that still the case?
Yeah, so for me, I don't distinguish for me dry versus maybe a productive cough. If you're making some mucus, I kind of look at my patients and say, hey, if you're coughing persistently, and persistent cough, it's got a couple different definitions, but I might say if you're coughing 4 to 5 times an hour that you're usually not doing, I think that's persistent. If you keep seeing that going on, some people
Okay.
may try to throw a little cough medicine at it,
Yeah.
and that might help out. But if that cough is still lingering, and certainly if it's affecting all day long, maybe at
Mhm.
nighttime, those are signs to call your doctor and get more advice for next steps.
Now, there's also listlessness. I hear that that's a sign, like you just, oh, I'm just so tired.
Yeah.
And then also some people are experiencing diarrhea.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So yes, the core symptoms that you're looking at, and this is just the novelty of this virus on the symptoms. Again, we're looking at the classic, and I'm calling it classic because it's only been around for 3 months. This diagnosis, but you're looking at fever, persistent cough, and shortness of breath. But now you're looking at other kind of symptoms too that people are presenting with: abdominal pain, diarrhea, lack of smell. So I'm hearing a lot of different other kind of things,
Oh,
listlessness or fatigue. But I think if somebody has like listlessness or fatigue, that could be pretty much anything. The challenges right now is nobody's really doing a lot of baseline laboratory tests because your doctor's office may be closed, or you might not want to go outside and do that stuff. So sometimes it's hard to distinguish if somebody's just fatigued because maybe they're overstressed, maybe they're
mhm.
anemic, they have a low blood count, maybe they're fatigued because their blood pressure's low or their blood sugar's low or high or something like that.
Mhm.
But there's so many things. But I still look at it at the classic symptoms: fever, persistent cough, and shortness of breath.
Okay. So, recommendations before we get out of here. Um, just for overall great mental health and physical health as we move through, because like I say, I think if we all focus on who do we want to be as a people and as a person and as a collective when we are on the other side of this. A lot of that has to do, because we haven't even gotten into the mental health stuff. That's going to be the residual fallout, PTSD, and all those things that will come with this. But uh, anything, if you give us throw two things out there that you could recommend that people do to feel like they're, being proactive.
Yeah, so I would say this. Number one, continue social distancing and stay at home, shelter in place measures for the indefinite time. Number two, continue to do hand washing appropriately. I'd say a couple of things too. I'd say number three, because there could be a lot of pandemonium, and you mentioned earlier, Lauren, that we cannot panic during this time, but preparedness is very appropriate. Panic is not appropriate. Preparedness is. I say limit the news. And be careful what you read. Get your
Yes.
information from trusted resources, but also give yourself permission to take COVID-19 breaks, because you could be on your phone blah, 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 every 5 minutes, new update. You got to give yourself a break. You have to allow yourself to have a break from what you're seeing, because that's going to only fuel more anxiety. And then lastly, I tell people this: realize that we're in this for the short term. And this is the weeks and months ahead of us. But I do truly believe that this disease burden will go down. We'll hit our peak. We'll start coming down on those curves down the road. In the long term, we will learn from this. But this is our opportunity to learn and apply what we've learned to everything moving forward to live healthier and active lives.
Hey, there we go. That is the perfect note for us to wrap up on today. And again, Mark, hats off. That doesn't even begin
Oh,
to cover
thank you.
how much we appreciate all that you all do. Please pass that on to anybody that you cross paths with. That we really do. I'm so grateful for all the health workers across the world. So thank you so much, and we'll have you back again, of course, and hopefully our conversation will be COVID-19 free at
Hey,
that point. right?
Lauren, it's been my absolute pleasure being on your show. I just want to just say tonight I'm doing a COVID-19 update on my show, To Your Health with Dr. G. You can find me on Facebook
Oh, that's
at
right.
To Your Health DRG, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time tonight. You can check me out on my website, www.drmarkgomez.com. But big COVID-19 update tonight on my Facebook page.
Perfect. Perfect. So, Mark, will you drop those links in
I
the
can.
comments when you get out of here? Because I'll be wrapping up.
I
You drop
can.
those in, and I highly recommend that you guys invite tons of people tonight. Start a few watch parties,
Yes.
um, and get over and get informed. Stay informed.
I will drop those
Information,
more.
right? That's right. Knowledge and information is the best thing you can do. That you can arm yourself with. I mean, I had somebody the other day tell me they put an electric fence around their compound. They've stockpiled guns, and they have $100,000 in silver.
Yikes!
You see what right? You see what
This ain't no zombie apocalypse. Uh,
That's what I'm saying. You see, information is king, so
yeah.
don't forget it. Get yours from reliable sources. So
Yes, sir.
tonight, Dr. Gomez is one of those reliable sources. He's going to drop those information
I
links in
will.
so you can join tonight's presentation and arm yourself with more great information. So,
Thank you,
Mark, thank
Lauren.
you. My best to your lovely wife and your beautiful kids, and I'll see you tonight at your
We'll
show.
we'll talk soon. Thank you, Lauren, for having me. Take care, everybody. Stay well, be safe, and social distancing works.
Here you go.
Later.
Thanks, Mark. Have a great day.
See you guys. Bye
Bye
bye.
now. So, Dr. Mark Gomez, everybody, wonderful, wonderful person. I really appreciate him taking time from a more than busy schedule out there on the front lines, keeping us safe. And so, I hope you all have gotten some information that you found of value today. I know I did. So, ringing the bell on that. Thank you, guys. Tomorrow, Martine Lopez will be joining us here. So, mark your calendar, set your alarm, and join me here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central for Thursday's edition of Bathrobe Moments. So, as always, I want to encourage you to be strong, be positive, and be the blessing. The only way you can be a blessing is first being able to see a blessing. So, when you get up and you want to get into the world and make it a better place, head to the nearest mirror first. Love that person, do what you need for that person, and then you're going to be ready to do that for any and everyone else that you encounter. I appreciate you. I celebrate you, and I thank you for giving me a piece of your day. I'll see you tomorrow morning right here for our next episode of Bathrobe Moments. La da da la da la 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 la. Bye, everybody.